This is going to be a new kind of style of video for me. I get a lot of questions in a lot of my comments and a few questions through emails. So I want to try to answer all these questions, but sometimes I have a hard time doing it in the comment section just because it's a little bit more cumbersome. So what I've done is I've compiled a lot of these questions and a few comments that I'd like to address off of some of my more recent videos. So I'm going to start with this first one here. Dennis asks, where do you stay when in the Philippines? Well, I have talked about this a lot. Maybe some people have missed out on this information, but we built a house in Samar. We started building our house in Samar back in I guess 2008. We broke ground in 2008, and little by little, just over the years, we sent money there to have things done. And around about 2012. The house was ready to be closed up, so we sent money to close it up. In other words, put windows in and close it up. And we made a trip over there in 2012 to check out the house. We made a lot of decisions on the final construction phase, if you will. And then we finally returned there in 2013, retired and returned there in 2013. We lived there for 4 years. There's several reasons why we actually landed on Guam, and I've talked about them in a blog, and which I've shut down, and I've mentioned some of that in some of my videos. But for the most part, after 4 years of living in the Philippines, Guam just was a better fit for us. We're both considered senior citizens, so the medical situation for us is much better. So we're on Guam. But we're trying to get back to the Philippines. We're just waiting for things to open up. And when logic returns and the first plane is taking passengers, we'll be on it. But in the Philippines, when we're there, we stay in Samar, just outside of Calbayog City. We're about 12 clicks north of the airport in a little fishing village. Quiet, but then it's not sometimes, with all the roosters and the karaoke and all that stuff. So sometimes it's quiet and sometimes it's not. But in any case, we stay in Samar. All right, Christina asks, if we were to do it again, would we retire in Guam and go to the Philippines back and forth to visit? No, I think we would probably do it the same way. After 27 years being away, it was worth it for her to be able to spend the last few years of her mother's life there and fix up the house the way she wanted to, because that is our home. And if something happens to me, that will be her home. She plans to move back there, I guess. But right now it's our vacation place, so in normal times, I guess we could say we would plan to spend 6 months here in Guam and 6 months there. Silto Saxon. Could I request a video giving an overview of the social life for retirees there in Guam? Well, thanks to you, Silto, I just published a video. You inspired me to publish that video, so I think I published it up earlier last week. And he goes on to ask, are there many fellow retirees from the mainland to connect with? What has been your experience, good or bad? There are a lot of retirees from the mainland here. For those that don't know, the demographics on Guam, and this is just off the top of my head, but I think it's like 52% Chamorro, 42%, maybe it's 56% Chamorro, 42% Filipino, 11% white or Caucasian, and the rest are Pacific Islanders, Korean, Japanese, and from other spots around the world. But there are quite a few retired Caucasian fellows from the mainland here. Most of them are married to brown-eyed girls, I guess you'd say. But there's a few married to Caucasian women here. But I mean, it's just a great retirement spot for anybody that wants to enjoy living in the tropics. So more people from Guam join the military per capita than anywhere else in the mainland, and they usually all retire here. So it's a big retirement community. What has been your experience, good or bad? My experiences with Guam have always been good. There are some drawbacks, as you can imagine, living in any place in the world, there's going to be drawbacks. One of the drawbacks here is the expense. Living on an island in the middle of the Pacific is expensive. Maybe a little bit less expensive than Hawaii, but everything is shipped in here. So we tend to pay a little bit higher prices for things, but if you do have military base privileges, you can shop on the bases and save some money that way. But the bad things about Guam, it is what it is. I mean, we're far away from everything. People here tend to get island fever, and I typically see that the folks that get island fever are usually the younger or middle-aged or younger folks. The older people, not so much, because for me and my wife, we've got everything we need here. There's no reason for us to go anywhere. When you reach my age, the desire to travel, I think, decreases over time. So to me, Guam is good. Al asks, are there a lot of tourists or visitors to the water parks here? Well, Al, there used to be, but not so much these days. I think Guam has maybe 2 or 3 water parks. Some of the hotels have a lot of water features. The 2 big water parks, as far as I know, are shut down. There is just no traffic. Some of the hotels that have water features, like Splash Park, I think I just did a short video on that a week or so ago. Splash Park is open. Pacific Island Club is open. So some of these places that have little miniature water parks and pools, they are open to the folks that live on the island. But outside of tourism, everything's pretty much shut down. Margaret says, I'm from Guam and I'm a new subscriber. Thanks, Margaret. I love watching your videos. Please make more videos with Ate, your wife. Well, Margaret, I would, but it's like pulling teeth. She loves to see herself on camera, but she don't ever get ready enough, I guess. I just gotta catch her Adlib, I guess you'd call it. But then if her image doesn't get the seal of approval, I can't use her. So I just insert her whenever I can. But thanks for subscribing. Aquarius, are there any cost differences between the Navy Exchange and AFES, which is the PX on base up at Anderson? Yes and no. Most things are priced similarly. You might find, a $1 difference between some products. For example, let's see, I think a can of cat food, Friskies cat food, on the Navy base might be 5 cents cheaper a can than it is up at the Air Force base. Gas at the Air Force base, you can get a 5-cent discount if you use the military star card, as opposed to shopping at the Navy base. So it's kind of a hit and miss. My wife buys a brand of lotion called Cetaphil. It comes in a jar. It's a lotion cream, I guess. At Navy, she pays maybe $12 for the container. At Anderson, she pays almost $13, or a little over $13. So some things are a little different. You just have to know what you're shopping for and where it's at. Aquarius also asks, could you live on a boat for cheap there? If anybody has ever owned a boat, you know it's not cheap. BOAT, break out another 1,000. That's an old saying in the boating community. We had a sailboat when we lived in Mississippi, and we sailed up at Lake Pickwick for about 3 years, and then we sold it before going into business for ourselves. But I'll say this much: it was cheap to be on the boat, but it wasn't cheap to maintain it. If anybody, like I said, if anybody's ever experienced having a boat, you know the expenses of keeping a boat well maintained are phenomenal. And once you put it in salt water, they double that. So utilities wise in water, yeah, it's cheap. Slip rentals here are I think they go by the footage of the boat. And I'm not exactly sure what they are, but you're talking probably $140 on average, $140 a month for a slip rental plus utilities. So yeah, the slippage fees and utilities are fairly reasonable, but then you've got the boat maintenance fees to deal with. So 6 of one, half dozen the other, I guess. Mark asks, how have the shorts been going for you? He's asking about the YouTube shorts that I've been doing. For anyone not aware of YouTube shorts, this is YouTube's answer to TikTok. They have recently, and this program is still in beta, but YouTube has built a platform within their platform where you can create videos that are less than 1 minute in length. They have to be done in the vertical as opposed to the horizontal. So basically, if you're taking video with your cell phone, if you take videos like this is vertical. If you're taking videos like this is horizontal. All shorts must be done in the vertical, just like TikTok. But have they been going good for me? I'm looking at my analytics. I've done, let's see, probably 10, 11, maybe 12 shorts over the last month and a half. And looking at my analytics, I would say they have helped in some areas. One of the analytics that YouTube algorithms look at is percentage of video viewed. So if you have a 10-minute video and people are only watching 5 minutes of it, that's a 50% view rate. The duration is 50%. That's not all that great. I mean, it's okay, but it's not that great. But when you produce a 1 minute video and people watch the entire 1 minute, that's a 100% view rate. So that actually improves on your overall duration number. So in that aspect, I guess they're doing good. And I've had some comments from some people saying they love the little shorts because they just don't like to invest a lot of time in watching videos. So the shorts, the shorts are just quick and easy. And they're quick and easy to produce. So overall, Mark, yeah, the shorts are doing okay. John asks, do you know what I miss about your channel? I miss your outings in the PI interacting with the common folks. You seem a little detached in Guam. Well, I'm not really detached. And if there's been any detachment, it's been because of COVID this last year. But you have to understand that Guam is pretty Americanized. And people here, just lost my screen. People in America tend to value their privacy a lot more than they do in the Philippines. So putting people here on camera without, they just don't feel overly comfortable with it like they like in the Philippines. It doesn't matter to a lot of people there. Heck, I've had people just jump in front of a camera in the Philippines just because they're all a bunch of camera hams. Filipinos are camera hams, and they love the idea that they might be on YouTube. So I usually get most people's permission before I put them on YouTube, but in the Philippines, not so much because they're going to suck it up anyway. Here, you pretty much have to ask people if they mind you doing video. So there's a big difference. It's all invasion of privacy. So if I seem a little detached here, it's just hard. I can do a walk around in the Philippines and shoot, people's houses and how they live and how they get around, motorcycles and tricycles and center cars and pedicabs. But you start doing that in here. I did a bike ride once in Tamuning. I did a video of some of the housing here in Tamuning. And as I was driving slowly down the street, a guy in the yard approached me as I turned around and came back down the street. He approached me and asked me what was I doing filming his house. He thought maybe I was casing it or something. I explained to him I'm just doing a video on real estate, and he excused me then. But still, people here will challenge you, just like in the U.S. They'll challenge you if you're videoing something that they think you shouldn't be videoing. So in that aspect, Guam is just like America. All right, let's see. Brad, love your sarcasm. Screw you, Brad. Just kidding. I think Brad used to live on Guam. He moved back to Texas somewhere, and I know he's missing Guam, so there's a jab at Brad. Jojo, you are all old and stubborn. Oh, this is related to a short video I did on living in the Philippines on $500 or $600 or less. So anyway, Jojo goes on to say, you are all old and stubborn. You're so old that you don't realize that millions of people live off less than that here in the Philippines. Roughly 25,000 pesos a month is doable. Well, quick math, 25,000 pesos equates to just right around $500. And that's doable. And I have no argument with that. It is doable if you want to just survive. And a lot of people don't really understand the difference between surviving in the Philippines and living in the Philippines. Well, who wants to retire and go, live in a bamboo hut and eat fish heads and rice? I mean, to me, that's not living. Yeah, I understand that many Filipinos live like that, but it's no choice of their own. If they had to choose, they would live a much better life. But the income is not there for them people. But why anybody that's raised in the Western world would want to lower their standard of living in retirement is beyond me. And as people age, $500 a month is not going to cover your health care costs. I don't care how healthy you are. You're going to have to make visits to the doctor. You're going to need insurance. You're going to have co-pays. You're going to have dental problems. And staying in the Philippines as a tourist, you're going to have recurring immigration costs. It's tough to do with $500. I don't care what anybody says, but I commend anybody that can do it and enjoys doing it for that amount of money. But so Jojo, it's not that I'm old and stubborn. It's just that I'm old and I want to live a comfortable retirement. Bill asks, are you still playing racquetball? No. Not that I'm not able to. It's just that the gym has closed the racquetball courts down. Both the Navy gym and the Air Force gym have moved workout equipment into the racquetball courts to kind of segregate the people. This is not a good sign for the military racquetball community because from my experience, I've been playing this game 40 plus years. My experience with racquetball is and I've seen this happen in Tupelo, Mississippi, where we once had 4 courts, and when I left we were down to 2 courts. One court had been turned into a spinning class, and another court was turned into a taekwondo studio or something to that effect, or a martial arts room, multi-purpose gym. And once you lose those courts, once the facility takes those courts away and finds another use for them, it's just tough getting them back. Racquetball is not where it was in the 1980s or even the early 1990s when it was big everywhere. Even in Guam, we had some civilian courts here that were very busy most times. Them courts were destroyed, I think, in a typhoon sometime in the late 90s, early 2000s. Roof leaked and destroyed all the floors, and they have never been repaired. So that building sits empty. So the only courts available left to us here in Guam are on the bases, and no, they have not been opened up yet. So it's been over a year, and I'm going through big time withdrawals. So, Bill, no. All right, let's see what else I got here. Paul asks, will Medicare work here in Guam? Yes, this is the United States. Medicare is accepted at many clinics and hospitals here. I just had a sleep study done. It's suspected that I have sleep apnea, which my wife's been complaining of my snoring for years, and I'm pretty sure it's related to sleep apnea. So the doctor finally suggested I do a sleep study. I was referred out into the local community to a sleep center here. It was completely taken care of by Medicare. And of course, there's a copay, and me being retired military, I have TRICARE. So when you're retired military and you're Medicare eligible, Medicare picks up the first half, and your TRICARE is your supplemental insurance. So it's no money out of my pocket. Actually, I had one sleep study, and then go back and do what they call a titration study to determine how I adapt to the mask and the settings of the type of mask I might have to use. I don't know, that's all above me, but I'm still waiting on the results for that. But yeah, Medicare does work here. What a lot of guys that live in the Philippines don't realize, when they turn 65, in order for you to keep your Medicare benefits, you're going to have to subscribe to Medicare Part B, or pay with what do I pay? $148 a month. It's gone up. So $148 a month comes out of your Social Security check if you want to retain Part B Medicare. Part A is automatic. You can't use Medicare in the Philippines. So a lot of those guys that live over there have declined payment. Some have, some haven't, but the ones that have declined payment, if they come back here, no, they would not be able to avail of Medicare, because unless they get caught up, and then they're going to pay big penalties. So a lot of guys are considering coming to Guam from the Philippines. I've had numerous emails about guys inquiring about moving to Guam, which has inspired me to do some of the more recent videos that I've done, such as the cost of living and social life. Guys are looking at bailing out of the Philippines for various reasons. A lot of it is COVID related, and some guys are doing it because of age-related issues, such as health, medical care. So Medicare does work here, guys. Paul also goes on to ask, will Amazon deliver to Guam? Yes, Amazon delivers. I get a lot of things through Amazon. Some things are free, I guess, depending on drop shipping, where it's originating from, and other things are pretty expensive as far as delivery fees. I looked at a couple t-shirts online. My wife wanted to buy some bocce ball t-shirts a couple weeks ago, and the one company I went through, the shirts were like $25 a piece. They're custom t-shirts, so $25 a piece and $49 shipping for 2 t-shirts. That's like, no way. But then we found the almost similar shirts on Amazon, and shipping was like $9 for 2 shirts. So that was reasonable. But some things deliver for free. When I purchased my drone directly through DJI, and it shipped to Guam for free. So some companies will ship for free to Guam, and other companies will charge. He's asking me also, which is my favorite shipper. I have no favorite. I guess my favorite one is the one who gets it here the quickest and the cheapest. That's my favorite shipper. Okay. Next question. Kona Ranger. Do you think there's a big difference living in Guam compared to the big island of Hawaii? I'm in California and want to move soon. My wife is from Leyte, and I want to get out of California, or the mainland, he says. Is there a big difference living on Guam between the Big Island and Guam? There are a lot of similarities. It's the island attitude is very similar between Hawaiians and Guamanians. I mean, you think they're, however they do it, they're some sort of blood brothers or something, but when you move to the islands, you've got to learn to chill out with the rest of these people. These are their islands, and if you don't adapt to their way of thinking and their way of living, you're just not going to fit in here. There are a lot of similarities between the Big Island, Hawaii, and Guam. And one of them is the expense. The Big Island is probably one of the most expensive areas, maybe outside of Honolulu, to live in the country. And Guam is probably not too far behind, but No, the outside outdoor activities, the fishing, the water sports, the surfing, the barbecues, the fiestas, the roast pigs, the luau's. I mean, no, it's all a very similar culture, just different languages. His wife is from Leyte. My wife's from Samar, and Leyte and Samar are both in Region 8, Eastern Visayas, and pretty close to each other, actually. And one of the advantages of being on Guam is that we can fly to the Philippines, be there in 3.5 hours at a lot less expense than, say, if we were in Hawaii or on the west coast of the United States. I think the last round trip ticket we had from Guam to the Philippines in return, gosh, I can't remember now, $260 round trip for one ticket. I'm going by memory, and hey guys, when you get old, memory is the first thing to fail. Anyway, so Guam's a good place to be if you're married to a Filipina, and she likes to go home a lot, and that's our plan, is to travel back and forth. So, all right, let's see here. I think I'm running out of questions here. Here's one from John. Basically, he's talking about the what they call the May to December relationship. If you're not familiar with that, that's the age gap relationships between a lot of foreigners and young Filipino girls. He's saying, risky as it may be, is it not looked upon as strange anymore? Well, I think this is a completely different topic. One that you could write a book about. But in a nutshell, I'll say this. A lot of guys think that it's perfectly accepted in the Philippines for an old guy to marry a young girl. And on the surface, it might be. But when you start digging down into Philippine culture, and if you go behind the curtain and you start asking people, you're not going to get that same answer. So anyway, like I said, you can write a book on that subject. Francisco asks, Randy, is everything okay with your house in Samar? I guess he's referring to he's referring to the Bissing, Super Typhoon Bissing, that is now skirting up the east coast of the Philippines. I think it's going to move north now, but the last word we got was northern Samar had almost 240 millimeters of rain. I think Katarman got dumped on. Calbayog City, it rained a lot, but not nearly that much. But they got mostly rain, hardly no wind, and our house is built pretty strong, so we never really have a problem. And because we're so close to the ocean, we don't have a problem with flooding. The only time we have an issue with flooding, and if you go back through some of my older videos, it was either Typhoon Wutip or Ramusan, where the typhoon moved across Samar just to the north of us, which put us south of the eye center, which put us in the onshore flow. So we had counterclockwise winds coming from the south portion of the storm directly perpendicular to the coast in the Calbayog City area, and it was coincided with high tide. So we had a little bit of a surge, and we had water come up our street, about halfway up our street, and water outside our compound, just at the base of our first step. But so it was probably still 2 to 2.5, maybe almost 3 feet below our slab grade, our house slab grade. So that was the worst we've ever seen it, and if that's the worst it's ever going to be, then we should never have a problem with flooding. When you're that close to the ocean, the only thing you have to worry about is a tidal surge. You're not going to get low-lying flooding because everything drains into the ocean. So thanks, Francisco, for thinking about us, and yes, everything was okay. All right, here's AJ. How difficult is parking generally near the beach and other entertainment areas in Guam? AJ, thanks for that idea, because I just published a video yesterday or a couple days ago on the beach parking situation in Guam. Pretty much there is no parking problem here. You can park and you can walk from your car to the water. and nobody charges for parking here. So the beach parking here is a good thing. And let's see. If you were to do it again, I think I covered it. I think this is it. Okay, well, you know, I think I'm going to start doing these question and answer videos more. You know, and I've always been an advocate that against doing talking head videos. And this is not really a talking head video. This is a talking head video. But I'm answering questions. And this is the best way I know to answer questions in depth without having to type out in a comment. I can expound a little bit more on some of these questions. So I think from now on I'm going to start accumulating some of these questions come to me through the comments sections. So if y'all would, if you've got a question and you're watching a video, please ask your question in the comment section, and hopefully I can get around to answering those questions in upcoming videos. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, press that notification bell to be notified of new videos, and give this video a thumbs up, and catch y'all later. Guam out.